Yo, what's happening, everybody? What's going on? We are live back at the BowlerX channel once again. This is the second week in a row we've done the live. We're going to do this every week, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, where you can see us both. We're going to talk about bowling. We're going to talk about all the good stuff you like to talk about every single week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to tune in. We want to thank everybody for joining us. As soon as everybody gets in here, I'm sure we will have plenty of people watching, as we had plenty last week. Apparently, a lot of people wanted to know what we talked about last week. Live with me again, as always, Mr. Lee Sandt, BowlerX Pro Shop manager, owner, operator, the website, and all that good stuff. How you doing, Lee?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Great, JR. Thanks. It's a Cinco de Mayo kind of night, so I'm relaxing with a margarita.
See, I saw the hashtag margaritas on your post on Facebook when we were advertising. And I saw your wife bring you a margarita, and I'm like, what's with the margaritas? And I realized you just said it right there. It's Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to that stuff, apparently, but we are good there.
I don't much either, but, there's not much else going on right now. So
no, hey, right. Might as well sit at home and drink margaritas. So what's new at BowlerX? Anything good going on at the Pro Shop? I know you stay busy quite a bit. You talked about Manic Mondays the other day. Actually, it was yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things get Monday's always the busiest. Everything piles up from the weekend, and we're still drilling bowling balls. I know some states are opening up a little bit. Some people have been able to get back in the bowling centers, and if they haven't, they're thinking about it soon. So orders are coming in. They want stuff. We're drilling.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
It is good.
That's more than a lot of pro shops can say right now. I know a lot of pro shops are kind of hurting a little bit. There's a lot of talk of an awful lot of them, shutting down for good, people not being able to keep up. They lost their big chunk of their revenue at the end of the season there. And now going into the summertime, even though they might be able to open up here within the next month, it's not going to do them a whole lot of good because not a whole lot of people bowl in the summertime. And maybe it'll be different this summer because people kind of got laid off early and they're going to be anxious to get back in and bowl. But we just don't know for sure what's going to happen with that. And I know there's an awful lot of pro shops that they live paycheck to paycheck, so they're going to be struggling here for a little bit, and it's going to be awfully sad if we see some kind of dwindle away there. So obviously nothing like that's going to happen to BowlerX, right?
No, I don't see that happening at all. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But as far as locally, I don't know when we're going to start bowling around here. Our date's been pushed back to start opening some businesses to May 25th, but it keeps getting pushed back. So we still have a decent amount of cases around here that they're reporting. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to it like you do.
Right.
I just know the date keeps getting pushed back, and I just don't know. We kind of talked about this on the first show too. I just don't know how it's going to look when we get back. It's going to be a different ballgame.
Yeah. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to tune into the first show, we talked a little bit about that, the reopening. We hashed a little bit about layouts, talking about whether they're super important or very little important. So you're going to want to make sure to head back and go back and watch that live show. It's always available over at YouTube. And it probably can find it still on Facebook as well. So just scroll down on the page a little bit. You'll be able to check it out there. But YouTube is always a good spot to go. That's my domain. That's where I love to play. You guys get to see me an awful lot on there. So, and hopefully we get back on there doing some ball reviews and everything real quick. Because as of right now, boy, I'm going stir crazy. I'm not going to lie.
You probably got a lot of bowling balls sitting there ready to be reviewed too.
I had them piled up before we left for the World Series, and I didn't have a chance to drill but a couple of them before we left. And I think it was like 17 of them that they sent before. And I drilled 2 or 3 of them. So there's probably at least 15 plus any of the new ones coming. And I know, a couple of the companies are waiting until, we're allowed to bowl again to release their next lines. So, we're sitting on a lot of bowling ball reviews as soon as we're able to get back in there. So that's good, but bad, because it's still going to take some time to get caught up, but it's good for everybody that loves to watch the reviews because you're going to have plenty of content here coming within at least a month, hopefully. In Michigan, we got pushed back too. I think 28th is the date that we're looking at now, but who knows what's going to happen? We have, no idea. Everything is so confusing now. They just keep telling us one thing and then, not telling us anything else. So, who knows what's going to happen? But as far as that last show goes, make sure to head back over and check those out. Tonight we got a little bit of a cool show. We're going to talk a couple of different things. We're going to talk about lane patterns a little bit. We'll talk about the house shot versus the sport pattern, what that means to the average bowler, and we're going to dive into the new USBC rule a little bit, the new hardness rule based on all the studies they did on urethane. No controversy here, guys. We're not going to be diving into any of the opinions on whether urethane's good or not. We're just going to talk about the rule change and what it could mean for manufacturers and all that. So, we were trying to have EJ on. Did we hear back from EJ again?
No, we haven't yet.
Yeah,
we haven't yet. But
he confirmed and then disappeared.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he's playing golf.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah. So throughout the show, you're more than welcome in the chat room to give us any questions that you may have. We'll have the ability to pull those up and try to answer as many as we can. If we happen to get EJ in here, I know we originally told him 7:30. And so maybe that's what he's waiting for. Maybe he's out on the golf course until about 7:29. So we'll pull him in here hopefully about 7:30, and he'll be able to answer some questions as well. But until then, we should go to Oklahoma.
Yeah, right. Let's get down to Oklahoma. They're bowling already?
Just jump in the car and head on down. I mean, I did talk about going to Pennsylvania over to your place and getting some stuff done out there since you still have access to the center. So,
well, the way you're talking, we're going to be open 3 days before you, so come on over.
Yeah, might as well. Shoot, might as well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, really, I'm curious. Alan here saying that they're open in Oklahoma City. I'm just curious if he's gone to the bowling center and what it looks like and what's going on there, because these places that are opening up early, they're going to kind of set the standard for how other places are going to open.
Right.
And what they're going to have to do. I don't know what it's going to look like here. I'm just curious what other people are going to do.
I mean, it's really hard to tell because they're talking about, they're still throwing out all these numbers saying numbers are going to spike again when everybody opens back up, and we just don't know what's going to happen. We got all kinds of theories going on out there. I'm pretty sure I've got a pretty good peg on the whole thing, but, I'm not going to say I'm right or wrong. I have no idea for sure. But we'll find out for sure here pretty soon. I know Georgia opened up already, or at least started to open up a little bit already. I know some people were talking about heading down there to go do some bowling as well. So within the next 2 weeks, we should know whether this thing's going to, spike back up again or not, because they've already opened up. We should get some data from them and some of the other places that are bowling. And Alan says odd lanes only. So I guess they're going to make a separation that way, kind of limit the people in the lanes. That's probably the best idea. I've seen some images of some centers that have like plexiglass installed in between lanes to try and kind of block everything off. But my question to that was, what's going to happen? Are you not going to have the fans going because somebody sneezes or coughs or anything? The fans are going to pick it right up, and that plexiglass ain't gonna save you. So I don't know. Maybe it's just there for sense of security, make people feel better. I'm not really sure, but
yep,
that's the way I'll look at it, I guess. I don't know how I would deal with that though. I think I would be a little weirded out bowling with plexiglass in between every single lane.
Oh, well, is it just in the seating area, or are you talking about all the way down the lane?
Not all the way down the lane, but all the way up the approach.
Up the approach, yeah.
Yeah. So all the way up the approach. So if you like playing really far left, you're going to kick the glass. So it's like you have ball returns coming up the lane again, back in the old days.
And by the way, I just heard from EJ, so he is in the house, so he should be joining us soon.
Okay, cool, good. Wish that guy would pick up his phone every once in a while. Busy man. I mean, he was saying he's been on like 8 or 9 lives already.
Yeah,
we talked to him last night, so that's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But all right, well, let's take a look at some questions here. What do we? Oh, we got one here.
Yeah.
It says, question from Jose Montano. Question: what are your opinions of plugged balls? Do you like throwing plugged balls? Well, Lee, you plug more balls than anybody I know, probably. So why don't you go ahead and start that off? What do you think about plugged bowling balls?
I don't see any problem with plug bowling balls. I don't know how many times you're plugging them. I wouldn't go crazy. But honestly, plug bowling balls, not an issue. I mean, does it have an effect on the ball motion overall? I would say slightly. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. There is a difference. So you're removing, that ball's been drilled, and you've removed some of that core material. When you get down there 2 inches, 3 inches in the bowling ball, you plug it, the material you're putting back into that hole is not the same density as what you removed. So it changes the physics really that are involved with the bowling ball. But is it something that you should be concerned about, or have I ruined the bowling ball by plugging it, or is it not going to perform as well? Heck, I'll be honest with you. I've seen plug bowling balls that roll remarkably better than a new ball. And it's hard to explain because, again, I don't have all the mathematical explanations sometimes. I've already had a ball where I'm sitting here, I want to try a different grip. And I don't want to go plugging a ball over and over. I've actually had a ball where I've drilled I'll keep my thumb where it is, but I'll move my fingers over just a little bit further, and I'll change the span or whatever I do, or my pitches. And I don't feel like, taking the time. And I've rolled it with 6 holes in the thing.
Right.
And it rolls great, so.
Yeah.
You just don't know. But anyway, plug balls, no, not an issue.
So when you talk about the physics of it, now I know we've had conversations about static weights and all that, and we were pretty much in agreement that static weights pretty much don't matter nowadays. And you were just talking that you change the. Is it enough? Do you think it's enough to make a difference in ball motion at all with plug?
I'm not going to say it doesn't. No, I think it does, but it depends on how much plugging you're doing.
Right.
Honestly, the big thing right now is everyone's talking about we have to plug the weight holes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to have a big effect? Some people will say, "Oh yeah, it's not going to roll the same." Well, it depends a lot on how large that hole is, how deep it is.
Right.
Honestly, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. And a lot of people, I know a lot of drillers who put weight holes in a ball before it's even been rolled. I mean, it's just the way it comes off. That's what you're going to do. So you've never even probably rolled the ball without a weight hole. You might find out. Hey, you might find out it doesn't even seem any different in your hands. And 2, you might even like it more. I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Right. Yeah, I think the only thing people need to really worry about is if you're plugging a bowling ball, just make sure the plug doesn't end up in your track area. You don't want to end up rolling over the plug itself. But other than that, I mean, I've thrown many plug bowling balls. I'm not a fan of using plug bowling balls, just because I like the way that a brand new ball aesthetically looks to my eyes. I have a hard time doing it. I mean, but I've done the same thing. I've plugged fingers over and over again, changing pitches, changing, different lengths and stuff. That doesn't bother me at all. It's the changing layouts that bugs me. If I go from one layout to another, boy, it drives me nuts seeing plug on certain parts because I'm not the best, plug in the world. I'm not the best matching color as some of these guys are. I'll get it as close as I can. Yeah, old man. I wouldn't say mine are awful, but I wouldn't say they're very good either.
I doubt they're awful. But yeah, we've seen some good ones.
Yeah. So overall, I don't think it really matters that much. Just don't do it too much and keep it out of the track.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lengthy answer there.
Hey, we've got EJ ready to join us if you want to.
Okay.
Want to bring him in?
Let's pop that bad boy in here.
Let's do that. Hey.
There he is.
How you doing, EJ?
Mr. EJ Tackett. It's a squirrel.
Good.
That's what's up.
Yeah. What is it? He's the squirrel because he's always got the nuts.
Yeah.
Always got the nuts. There we go. Cool. So what's going on? Were you golfing earlier? What was going on there? Because I know you were ignoring all of us for some time.
No, I've been doing trim and trying to finish this office. I've been working all day on this stuff, trying to finish it up. So
Natalie's paying you, right?
She's paying. Yeah. I'm paying her.
paying her to do your own office. That's funny. Cool. Well, so we're gonna bring you in here. Obviously, we're gonna answer some questions from some folks. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, so I'm not telling you to watch your mouth, but if you want to swear, yeah, that's on you. But yeah, no, we don't get too crazy on these shows. It's not like our match game shows. Our match game shows get a little bit more epic on those, but this is more just a little bit of bowling talk. I know you've done quite a few of these. You said you did 8 or 9 of these live shows over the last couple of months or last couple of weeks now. So
yeah, I did I've done. I mean, I'm doing that thing with Brad too, but I've done. I think in the last week, I've done. This is my eighth one in the last week since last Monday. So almost every single day, I've been doing something. Yeah.
On top of match games, at night. So and those take us 2 or 3 hours sometimes. So we're on for quite a long time. But it's
at
fun.
least we have a lot of fun doing that.
Man, it's a blast. I love doing it. we're getting all the stars, all the different people on there, and just asking raunchy questions and some good questions, and
we've got some great special guests lined up too, coming down the road.
Coming up, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have some cool people on there. So, last night was almost bad. After we got done with the match game last night, because I cut us off on accident. We completely just blanked out, and because I was trying to figure out the whole live thing with it, and I couldn't quite get it, and I accidentally clicked out of it, and it stopped the download of the actual show. So I almost didn't have the download to be able to create the actual match games. Luckily, I was able to backtrack and find it and re-download it and get it to go. But we almost lost those shows from last night.
Yeah, we were very concerned.
Yeah. Yes, we were.
Yeah, that was.
We were concerned for your well-being,
man. I'm just trying to figure out how to get a new host in there. That's all I'm trying to do.
We would have been mad about that, but.
So all right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna chat a little bit. The couple of topics we've got tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about sport patterns versus house patterns. Try to educate folks a little bit about the difference between some of the PBA patterns, why we don't see a lot of sport patterns in recreation bowling and league bowling and stuff like that, and why there's a big misconception of PBA bowlers aren't as good as what they look like because they don't score very high on TV. So we're going to try to get people to understand that a little bit. And then we're going to transition a little bit, and we're going to talk about the new balance rule, or the new hardness rule from USBC, where they just raised the numbers for that based on their studies from urethane over the last 9 months or so. They've been working on that. So, but we're going to take some questions. We're going to look at see if we've got any more here popping up that we can answer. Any questions for EJ? We'll try to get some going there, and we'll try to bounce around. How about the balance hole rule? Will it be extended? I don't know what you mean by extended.
I think he's thinking if it's going to be extended because of the coronavirus. Obviously, we didn't have time to finish. Everybody didn't have time to finish their leagues. But I believe I read from USBC that they're going to go ahead and stay with the August 1st. And I don't think that date is going to change. I think I read that. I could be wrong, but
I heard the same thing.
Okay.
It's not changing.
Yeah, and as far as like on tour goes, obviously we abide by USBC rules, but the tour guys decided, the players committee and the uppers decided that it would be good to not change the rule on the PBA tour until January 1st. So that way we at least finish our season with the same way we started it, and then we will follow suit with the rule change on January 1. I believe that's how it's going to go on tour.
Okay, cool. How do you think that rule actually affects anything? What do you think about the whole thing?
I think it does in certain situations. I know I have a lot of bowling balls that I always put a weight hole in it just because it makes it roll better for me. I think some of the two-handers are going to have to do a little bit of figuring out without being able to put the extra hole in. But I think everybody's going to have a little bit of a learning curve of how to figure out how to get their bowling ball to roll similarly to the way it did with the weight hole in it. And that will be with, maybe drilling, like I use turbo switch grips. So I could use maybe like 1.25 inch bit and go a little bit deeper in the thumb before putting the switch in, or go deeper with the fingers, stuff like that. You just got to play around with it a little bit, see how it affects your ball in the ball roll, and just try to get it as close as possible. And that's what I'm pretty much going to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been playing with that already. That's kind of what I'm experimenting with now in the shop.
Yeah. Yeah, and the way I try to explain it is, I think we talked about it a little bit in the first live last week. It's just going to make pro shop guys and gals, be more honest. They're going to have to, be a little bit better at their craft, trying to create better layouts, get things right, because they're not going to be able to just put 3 holes in it, and then if it comes back that they don't like the layout or they don't like the way it rolls, they can't just put a weight hole up or down on the VAL to try to change the core and make it flare more or flare less based on what they want to see different. So it kind of makes the pro shop people have to, work a little bit harder and learn a little bit more. And hopefully that actually makes it better for the overall customer experience. At least that's the way I see it,
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, agreed.
All right, let's see here. What do we got? Lee, what ball have you drilled the most during the shutdown?
Oh, let's see. Well, right when when this all started coming down, there were a couple of balls that were coming down the pike. Obviously, there really hasn't been anything new since then. I would say the most popular of late that I have been drilling for customers has been the Storm Axiom. Been quite a few. The Phase 3 was the hottest thing going into that in our area. It just took over. Everybody in the area seemed to have a Phase 3 when it came out. The Ripcord Flight was probably, I'm sure, it was the last ball that came out after this epidemic here. And
pandemic.
Okay, I'm sorry. Wrong terminology. Yeah, pandemic.
There's a difference.
That's also been very popular. It always comes down to what's the newest thing out there. Really, what it comes down to. It's very rare that you see something that's 6 months old that still has the appeal. It happens, but it always goes to the new stuff. So, and there really isn't anything else to talk about right now than those. The Flight, Axiom, those were the big ones, right at the end. So, what's going to happen when we get done with this? Like, I don't know. I haven't heard from any of the manufacturers what's in the works. I mean, are they going to start introducing balls right away? I have no idea. I haven't heard anything. EJ, you hear anything about that?
No, I honestly have no idea what's going to happen.
No.
Obviously, all the balls that aren't released, I think, are going to get pushed back. Obviously, like Motive in Michigan, they've been shut down the whole time. They can't even go into the plant at all. So, whatever amount of time that they weren't allowed to work, I figure that's going to be the amount of time that the next ball is going to be pushed back. So,
yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know. I would imagine we'll hear something soon about new releases.
Yep. Yeah. So we got a couple other questions up here. I think the one that I saw was the one about the PBA, becoming a PBA member. I think that'd be a good question for EJ. What does it take to become a PBA member nowadays? What's the new rule? I don't even know the rule on that, actually.
I think it's like 2 years of league averaging more than 200. I think it's still the rule. And then there's another, I don't know, maybe at like nationals or something, if you average so much there too. There's a couple of different things that you can get in on.
Right. And then cashing in 2 regionals or something like that.
Yeah, you cash in 2 regionals. And, yeah. So, it's actually not that hard to become a PBA member. The hardest part about it is being able to compete against the best players in the world and the best players in even in your region. And I know, JR, you bowl a lot in our region. There's a lot of really good players of guys that don't bowl, but do regionals.
Right.
Every time we showed up, and I know you don't bowl now as much as you did, but even every time we show up to a regional and you're there bowling, I'm like, well, JR can win. I've seen you do it before. You got Patrick Dombrowski, like Josh Connors, like all these guys, a bunch of guys in Ohio, especially in Michigan. There's a lot of really good players that you have to beat, even at the regional level.
Yeah, now you got like Lowshetter, who doesn't bowl nationally anymore. He's going to bowl pretty much all regionals, I'm sure. So I wonder how many he's going to win whenever we get back out there. Yeah. That's one of the things I was thinking about lately is it's not so much like tour stuff. I don't miss tour stuff so much. It's more like the regionals, the local regionals, the small tournaments that I'm missing more than anything right now, just because those are all the people you see the most.
Right.
Like I could care less about going out and bowl with the PBA guys. I can go beat my head against the wall somewhere else for all I care. But at least the regionals, it's they're more fun for me because it's more my class right now that I'm not bowling a whole lot. So I miss being out, just going to the local regionals and stuff, especially like I know Coldwater is not technically considered a regional anymore, but man, that Coldwater event is so much fun. Being able to go play mini golf outside on the back, and it's a riot every time we go out there. What's one of your favorites? I know Coldwater is obviously a favorite, but something else.
Well, As far as like a regional goes or national stuff?
You can say your own regional. That's fine.
No, I'm not even going to say my own.
No, I thought yours was fun. I liked it.
It is fun, but I mean, I don't have all the extracurricular stuff that a lot of other guys have. Man, there's been a lot of good ones in our region. It's hard to like narrow down. The one in what was the other little town that we bowled over by Coldwater? That line, the bowling center Liney also owned. It was right by 75. Little old wood house where me and you and Simonelli and Eugene all got into it that day.
Oh, was that at Bill Burke's place?
No, that wasn't Bill Burke's. No,
where was that?
It's Astro Lanes.
Astro, yeah. That's in Wapakoneta.
Wapakoneta.
Yeah. Wapakoneta. That was fun. I liked yelling at you. That was cool.
Yeah, but they put on a good event. You know, they always had a cookout every time there too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, obviously Liney's running it, so he's gonna do some good stuff. But
yeah,
there's been a lot of really good regionals in our area. It's hard to like narrow it down. Obviously, Coldwater's the top.
That's the premier.
But there's I feel like there's a lot of places that are like second. There's a lot of seconds, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's try to get into some of these topics here. But we do have a comment here. I just want to read that off.
Yeah, we got a bunch of comments.
Hey, EJ, huge fan. How in God's name do you get that high of a rev rate?
Well, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's not something that you can really teach. But I can give tips on. I give tips to people all the time of like how they can maybe increase the rev rate a little bit. Obviously, one of the most important things is being able to work the inside part of the bowling ball and not having that chicken wing. You know, you got to be able to create a little bit more leverage at the bottom of the swing. And if you can do that over what you were doing, if you're not doing that before, it should increase your rev rate a little bit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is very underutilized in amateur bowling is they don't use their legs enough. They don't use their legs to create that power from the ground up. Bowling is no different than any other sport. You know, football, baseball. You know, if you watch somebody throw a pitch, they're pushing off the right leg. If you're right-handed, you're also pushing off the right leg the same exact way a pitcher is. So you're using your legs to create speed. And I also, when I get to the line, you'll see a lot of times my left heel will come off the ground, and that's me pushing against the ground basically and using the ground as leverage. And the person I kind of compare that to, obviously is way different, but it's Tiger. Like Tiger always did that. He always compressed his left leg and really pushed against the ground to create all that leverage. Mm-hmm. And I kind of do the same thing. So those are two. They're not simple, but it's probably the easiest two things to relay to people that they could actually implement into their game.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the cool things is we're actually designing a new tool that will be able to help people to be able to create a little bit better rev rate, create a better ball roll, check your PAP, check your axis tilt, be able to look at all that stuff, and you can do it all from home. So it's going to be a pretty cool thing. We're working on some of the final details now, so be on the lookout at BowlerX.com. We're going to be able to work on all of these things, and you can always head over to the YouTube channel. I talk about these types of topics all the time, and I think I use EJ as some examples in most of the videos when I'm talking about rev rate, when I'm talking about ball speed, because he is one of the guys. You are one of the guys who uses your legs the most. You have to. You're 5'0", you're 100 and nothing. So the way to create that kind of power is to use a little bit of lower leg power. It's nothing to do with upper body. It's all technique and it's all power from the lower legs. So people they get a little bit too confused thinking it's about how fast your hand spins the ball, how fast your hand spins around it. Has nothing to do with that. It's all about how quick your thumb gets out of the ball and then how fast your fingers rotate the ball. And it's in comparison to each other. So the faster your thumb gets out and then your fingers follow immediately, the faster your rev rate's going to be. So there's all kinds of at-home tricks you can do. Head over to the YouTube channel, look at some of those videos, and you'll be able to see some of that stuff there. So great question there. That's always one of the cool ones to see because that is the biggest video that people like to see is how to increase rev rate.
It's a big one.
So we got Jonathan here. He says, what advice do you have for someone going to bowl in their first regional? What do you do? What do you wish you would have known going in?
There's about a list, maybe about this long, of things that I wish I knew when I first started. But the one thing that I tell people that's going to go and bowl in a regional for the first time is go practice, talk to your pro shop operator, have them help you with understanding what surface does to a bowling ball and why. And then really understand your equipment, exactly what it does and what it doesn't do. And understand, basically just understanding ball motion. If you can understand ball motion, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. When I first came out, I really didn't understand ball motion. I was able to do different things with my hand, but it took me a couple of years. And once I learned, really understood a ball motion and was able to comprehend it, was when I really started having a lot of success and a lot of consistent success on tour.
When you say, go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna say, when you talk about ball motion, and it took you, a while to recognize it, what exactly do you think? Like, I know people listen to that and they think, oh, I see the ball go down the lane, or the pro shop guy gets me a ball. I have a ball, I sand it, and it hooks earlier, and I got one that hooks later, but I still can't make it do what I want to do on a sport pattern. I hear it all the time. I get on a tougher pattern. What is it about ball motion and understanding it that you think the average league bowler doesn't understand compared to like someone on the professional level? What's the difference?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I think people don't understand as much is when they see maybe they're bowling league, and it happens on tour, where you're throwing a ball. Let's say I'm throwing like a Jackal Ghost, big asymmetric bowling ball, and I see the ball 210. Well, most people will think, oh, I need more hook. Mm-hmm. Like I need a bigger core bowling ball, stuff like that. And it's actually the opposite of that. You have to actually use less core, maybe less cover, and actually move left, because what has happened is the oil in the front part of the lane has dissipated and it's gone away. So when you release the bowling ball, it's using its energy immediately out of your hand instead of skidding a little bit and getting into its roll in the mid lane. It's already using its energy before it even gets to the arrows. And that's why it's not hooking down lane, because it started to use its energy. So you use a ball with a little bit smaller core, maybe smaller cover. Both, one of the other, depends on what you're actually bowling on. And every time I 210 with a bigger core bowling ball, I always move left, or some people might want to move right. Well, if you move right, you're actually moving back into more dry boards instead of moving into fresher oil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, that's people come in the shop, and I can't tell you how many times they think that the ball at the top end of our rack there, that's the highest price ball with the most surface, that has the highest hook potential. They think it's going to give them the most visual hook.
Yeah,
and they don't see what they think they're going to see. Yeah. And I try to explain that I think you really, this is what you're looking for, something down here, but they are so convinced that you are talking them out of a better ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way I explain it to people all the time, because obviously my parents own a bowling center. I've been in the pro shop, around the pro shop for a long time, and they'll talk about a bowling ball like that, and like, which one hooks the most? I said, well, on paper, this one does. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it always is going to hook more, because like I said, if there's less oil in the lane, that big asymmetric, really strong covered bowling ball is going to use its energy so fast that it's actually going to hook less than like a low mid ball, because the low mid ball is going to save its energy and be able to hook down lane. Mm-hmm. So that's just the way I explain it to people.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into our topic there, is talking about sport patterns versus house patterns. And when you're talking about these moves, and that's another one of those videos that I did. I think this one was actually on my personal page, so I'm going to have to remake this one for the BowlerX page. But the one thing I talked about was the biggest mistake that most people make is when they're on those tougher patterns, when they start seeing their ball hook less, they start trying to move right. And they start trying to go straighter up the lane when they actually should be moving left. Because the whole idea is actually about moving your ball closer to the pocket when your ball's not hooking enough. It's not about moving it away from the pocket. It's different in league, because on league, you have all those dry boards to the right, and then you have all the oil in the middle. So you can move a little bit to the right and make it hook more. Now, when you were talking about there was more hook to the right later in the day, yeah, but if you're on a fresh pattern and you're trying to get you're trying to look for ball motion, you're trying to get the ball to the pocket properly. Generally, the rule is if you 210, the move is to move to the left, whether it's fresh or on the burn. The move's to the left, not to the right. Because if you're moving to the right, especially on those flatter patterns, you're seeing, they're flatter to the right. You're going to see a lot more volume over there. So you're throwing it into what they call the out of bounds. That's where all the hang is. So you don't want to move closer to the out of bounds. You want to move further away. So that's why out on tour, you see, when you start to see the longer patterns, these guys crush it and they go way left as fast as possible because they can create those angles. EJ, you're one of the best at that. You're one of the best at moving left as quick as possible. And I want to touch on some of those things about, ball motion that you talked about. One of the things I always give you so much credit for is you have the ability to see the ball motion. Once you figured out the ball motion that you wanted to see, you've now figured out how to create that everywhere. And that's the hardest thing. And that's why Pete was so good for so many years. Everybody always complained, man, Pete just plays the lanes the same way every single week. Well, yes and no. He's using different bowling balls trying to create the same type of motion, because that same type of motion is what those patterns, those lanes, those that the PBA is calling for at this moment. So what we're seeing right now, you've basically mastered between you and Belmo and Simo and Troop and some of these guys, like you've mastered the ball motion that you need out there. And that's the hardest thing to do, is try to figure out exactly what you have to do to get your ball to do the right thing. Because I preach it all the time. Everybody out there throws it so good. Everybody out there throws it perfect. Everybody knows where it's going. Nobody throws it bad. The difference is who's making the right decisions to get the ball to go through the pins the right way. Because I go out there, especially at the World Series, I'll go out there and beat my head out against the wall, using wrong layouts or using wrong surfaces and getting 9 all day long, tricking myself thinking I need the wrong things and just not figuring out the right move to create that shape that needs to be created, and where you have mastered how to do that. So I give you mad props for being able to do that stuff, because you've obviously shown the world you're one of the best in the world. And it's because it's not just because you throw it really good. It's not because you have rev rate. It's not because you have ball speed. It's because you've learned. It's because you have adapted to what they're giving you, and you've done the right things to become successful. And people need to take a page out of your book and try to really understand that it's more about just trying to be perfectly, professional. It's more than trying to be perfect physically. It's about trying to learn mentally what is being given to you and what you can actually create out of what is being given to you, more than trying to create something that's not there. Because that old saying is, you can't out-bowl bad ball reaction. And you can't out-bowl a bad fit. So if you have those two figured out, you're probably going to have a little bit of success. That's my little spiel there. So congrats to you for being one of the best in the world, even though I love beating you still. Doesn't happen often, but but anyway, that leads us into that topic. That's that one topic there, the sport pattern versus the house pattern. I think we kind of just touched on it pretty good. But what is it about? People see you guys struggling on TV sometimes. Not so much this year because the patterns have I don't know if you guys have just figured it out that much better on TV, broken them down that much better on TV, but the scores have been pretty high on TV. But generally, when you go to the U.S. Open in years past, maybe 5-6 years ago, you see guys shooting 160 and winning their match. You got people in the stands or people at at home bowling league, and they're like, "What the heck is this crap? My buddy averages 230. He could bowl on tour. These guys suck." So it's hard to explain to people what the big difference is. And one of the things USBC tried to roll out was the red, white, and blue patterns, and then the sport leagues. The PBA rolled out their PBA experience leagues and all that, but they never really gained any traction. Now, why? I guess that's my question to you guys. Why do you think that is? What is in the bowler's mind that makes them not want to bowl on those types of things?
I think that a lot of people just want to go have a good time. They just want to strike.
Yep.
It's like when you can use golf as a comparison. People want to go play a shorter golf course and they want to drive par fours. They want to hit it as far as possible. It's the kind of same thing in bowling. They want to go bowl league, shoot a really high score, and strike a lot. And that's what they want to do. They just don't want to challenge themselves. They're perfectly happy with just going in and bowling league, and that's it. They want to bowl their 3 games and go home. Now, there is I think the percentage is small. I would say it's probably maybe 5% of the people, if it's that high, actually want to challenge themselves and actually want to get better and want to learn all these things that we're talking about, understanding the ball motion, understanding what surface to put on a bowling ball and when and why, what layouts to use, when and why, what hand positions to use, when and why. Why should I change my speed? Why should I change my rotation? Why should I change my tilt? All of these things is what goes through a guy on tour, such as myself. I'm thinking about these sort of things constantly. Whereas somebody bowling league, I throw it this way, I stand on this dot, and I throw this ball, and that's perfectly fine. But I would take great offense to someone that does do that, and that's all they do is bowl league, and they don't want to get better, and say that they could beat somebody on tour. Like that's asinine.
You're exist.
Living in a box if that's the way you think. And like I said, I have no problem with someone that is that way, but don't think that the guy that averages 230 doing that can beat the guys on tour, because there is no chance that he's going to beat the guys on tour, at least to start. Eventually, he could probably get better and learn if he wanted to. But the first few times that he comes and bowls, he has no chance.
That makes me think about something. That brings something to my mind. I was thinking about something else before, but then you said that. What do you think about the BowlerX Elite Series, where you've got the house shot? And why, if someone's watching, people that are bowling league, and they're watching a guy who bowls league beat up on the professional bowler, how do you explain that?
House patterns.
I get it.
When you give someone a huge area to miss, if they get the ball consistently off their hand, this sort of the same way every time, the chances of it hitting the pocket are very, very high. So now it's just a matter of carry. So I struggle on house patterns because and we'll go back to the ball motion thing of what I want to see my bowling ball do. So typically most people that bowl on house patterns want to see their ball go long and snap, which is very good for a house pattern. It gives you a lot of miss area. Guys on tour are looking for that nice, strong mid-lane roll with continuation through the pins. We're looking for a very, very round shape rather than a hockey stick shape. And it's not very conducive on house patterns. I know when I'm bowling really well and I bowl league, I will ring 10 every other shot because my ball has used its energy too quick because of all of those dry boards, and it's just too flat into the pocket. It's not continuing through the pins like it would, or like I would normally see on a pattern that doesn't have that built-in friction to the right. And I think that's why you'll see sometimes guys that bowl league and we bowl on a house pattern, their chances of winning are probably just as good as ours winning. But if you take that same person and put any sort of pattern out that has any oil to the right, the professional's chances increase greatly.
Yeah. No, I got you. I'm with you 100%. I know that. I'm glad you're trying to explain that. I think it's hard though for someone watching who is, say, more of a recreational bowler, someone who, and really the majority of league bowlers are kind of more on the recreational side. You get some guys that'll bowl weekend tournaments, and there's others, like you said, that small 5% that want to bowl on a sport pattern and better their game. But I think the vast majority are the guys that and women who are having a good time. It's one night a week out, or maybe 2 nights a week, and they watch this, and they're thinking, well, how come the professional isn't basically shooting a perfect game almost every time on this, and why are they losing to these people? I mean, I have a problem with it. I personally don't like it, but hey, I'm glad I think they're done with it, but I don't know. But
we can kind of compare it to other sports too. Like, does the greatest quarterback in history complete every pass? Does the greatest wide receiver catch every pass? No. Does all of these things, like LeBron James? What's his field goal percentage for his career? Like 50% maybe, or something like that. Whatever
Not
it
even
is.
that high.
Okay.
But if you brought an amateur in and went against one of those guys, the differences would be clear.
Yeah.
You'd see it right away, but you don't see it on the house pattern.
Right.
You don't see it. And it's hard for somebody to grab their head around that.
Yeah, it'd be like the only comparison, and we'll use basketball real fast, is taking a regular size basketball goal and letting LeBron play on that, and then you taking, a 55-gallon barrel that's twice or three times the size, and you're playing against each other. Well, now you're evening the playing field pretty close. The chances of you making that basketball in that 55-gallon drum, you just have to be close.
Yeah. I think one of the things, the ways I like to really explain the difference between bowling on a league pattern and the PBA stuff or anything tough, like the PBA guys, they're brought up. That's all they bowl on is the tough stuff. So what happens is we start to develop what we call foul line adjustments. So when your body gets out of alignment, you know it before you get to the foul line. So if you're going to miss a little bit left. Your body subconsciously just knows. So what happens when you miss a little bit left? You fan it a little bit. You miss it a little bit with your fingers, trying to keep it on line to make sure it doesn't overhook. If you do that in league and you miss a little bit left and you fan it, you're missing the head pin right. Yeah. That's the problem. And then it's the opposite. When you miss to the right on a sport pattern or a PBA pattern, you're trying to catch it a little bit more. You all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, it's going right. I need to get it just a little bit more, make it hook more. And so that way you can keep it online. You do that on a league pattern, you're throwing it further into the dry and you catch it more. It's going to hit it. It's going to big four every single time. And I think that's what kind of happens an awful lot. So it causes those problems that most people don't see. It looks like you're just, and then everybody says, well, just don't miss. Well, we're not talking about, a full board or two full boards of miss. We're just talking about half a board, 3/4 of a board of miss room. And it causes that because the guys out on tour, their releases are so much softer at the bottom. They create the rev rate, yes, but they're softer and they shoot it through the front instead of a lot of the league guys who are really good in bowling league. They're hitting up on it as hard as they can, and they're trying to create as much rev rate. They're trying to get it to hook as much as possible, as early as possible. And you want the opposite out on tour. So those are just some of the differences, and that's the way I kind of try to explain it to people. Is that's why we struggle. That's why I struggle on a lot of the league patterns most times, is because of that specific thing. But I hate to cut this part off. We've kind of got to move on a little bit. We've only got a few minutes left. We need to move on to that last topic, which is that new rule, the new USBC rule. We're going to see if we can't pull this up and read this to you real quick. Let me get it up here. Hopefully everybody can see that. But the new rule was based on the study that USBC did over the last 9 months or so, where they talked about the urethane balls and everything that was going on. People had to complain about the urethane balls. We're not going to get into any of the conspiracy about it or anything like that. But basically what had happened was they did this long research based on a lot of the urethane balls, testing at some of the PBA events, some of the USBC events, to test the hardness of these balls. And what they found was that some of the urethane balls, and it wasn't just one company, it was over a broad range of a bunch of different companies' urethane balls, the new age urethane was actually over time with use getting softer. So even though these balls, when they first were tested to get approved, they were hard enough, they passed that 72 range, they're above 72, they were falling below that 72, even below 68 at some points, to make them not technically legal over time. So they had to kind of change some things to adjust for that. And if we read the rule here, or read their research report, I'll just kind of get through this as quick as I can. And you can kind of read it on your own there too. But after conducting research and performing field tests on bowling balls used in competition, the United States Bowling Congress proposes adjusting the specification for ball hardness to 73D for all models. And now that's it used to be 72 for anybody that didn't know. As part of the proposed specification change, USBC proposes eliminating the use of field tests to check bowling ball hardness because of challenges related to workability, temperature control variances, and testing devices. As you guys probably all saw, people posting pictures of their purple hammers, their black hammers, their pitch blacks that were all measuring below 72, using their little hand durometers and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, look, all these balls are illegal. But they didn't. You can't use those little hand durometers. They're not the same. It doesn't come out the same as when you have an actual contraption to hold the ball and then you're pressing down on it. And even then, when you have those, if you're not pressing down properly with the right amount of pressure, you're going to see different readings there. So they got rid of those rules of testing on there. So they raised the rule to 73. Manufacturers will be asked to discontinue additional products of models previously approved below 73D by July 31st, 2021. USBC is inviting a comment period for manufacturers through June 1st, 2020 on the proposed changes. The USBC Equipment Specifications Committee, which has delegated authority from the USBC board to make equipment specification changes, proposes specification changes based on research provided by the USBC equipment specifications and certification staff. You notice they're saying specifications an awful lot in this thing. Good grief. The ESC staff conducted field tests on bowling balls at the 2020 U.S. Open and the 2020 World Series of Bowling in advance of the 2020 USBC Masters. The field tests demonstrated urethane shells naturally became softer with the use over time compared to when they initially approved, while reactive shells show little change. While the results vary in magnitude by manufacturer, the trends were the same. USBC field testing showed 5 manufacturers under 72D after use. At the time of approval, a bowling ball currently must have a hardness of 72D or higher. Raising the specification to 73D ensures reactive shells balls, which have higher hook potential than urethane, will stay above 72 hardness at all times. The proposed specification allows balls to soften as they naturally will with use over time. Currently, 32 ball models approved by USBC passed testing with at least one sample ball under 73D. All previously approved balls remain approved and can continue to be used in competition under the proposal, and any balls confiscated by USBC during field testing for additional research would be returned and could be used in competition. USBC does not feel having urethane balls naturally fall below the hardness specification is a competition concern, since reactive balls have more hook potential than urethane. USBC will maintain the requirement preventing bowlers from altering ball hardness as listed in your equipment specifications manual and in the USBC rule 17A, unfair tactics. The use of chemicals or other methods to change the hardness of the surface of the ball after it is manufactured is prohibited. So I know that was really long, but I wanted to get through that so people could actually hear it for themselves and see it for themselves. But the way I see this whole thing was they had a problem, and they were trying to figure out how to fix it, because they did have some bowling balls that were coming back that were illegal, technically illegal, not technically, but by old rule, which they then changed the rule, and now they've changed the rule again. So they technically had some bowling balls falling under there, and they said, well, how do we fix this? And that's kind of one of the things that I proposed when we were talking about all this, was just raise the hardness level to allow for it to fall down to 60, 69 or 68. So now if these urethane balls are starting at 73, they're not going to fall below that 68. So now we don't have a problem. But for them saying that they're going to return those balls that did fall below 68, I mean, from 68 or lower, the 67 and a half to 72, there's a difference. I mean, I hate to say it. There's not a lot of difference, but there's a difference. And what people don't understand is they're like, well, urethane balls already go fairly straight. Well, that's not necessarily true, because the use of the urethane ball is to get it to hook early and to control the back end of the lane. So now you're giving it that even more early hook and continuation all the way through the lane by having that little bit of softness. It's like when you're in the snow, you have to, and you take a little bit of air out of your tires. Now you flatten it out just a little bit. Now you gain a little bit more traction. It's the same type of thing. I mean, is anybody really getting an advantage out of it? No, I don't think so. I just think it's an extra tool that can be used. So, those guys, everybody out there, anybody that was trying to call anybody a cheater, I think that was a little bit absurd. That's stupid in my mind, because those guys are just that good. Like Buttroff is just that good. He knows where the ball's going. Just like I said, everybody out there knows where the ball's going. So no bowling ball is going to give them an advantage, But the one thing I will say is it is a lot about matching up. The majority of the game is about matching up, getting the right ball in your hand with the right angles. That's it. Because everybody out there knows where the ball's going and how to throw it. So, if you can figure that out, you're in good shape. But that's my 2 cents on that. I don't know how you guys feel. I know we've only got a few minutes left here before we got to get out of here, but I don't know if you
very
guys...
simply, very simple. There's a reason you see the better guys at the top over and over. and whatever you want to do with these kind of specifications isn't going to change that. That's what even if it's in your house league, the guys that are averaging the most, there's a reason they're averaging the most, and it's not because of the ball you're using. It's not because of the layout they're using. It's not because of where they put their weight hole. It's because they've worked at their game and they understand it, and that's where it all comes down to. It's about practice and practicing things the right way, and increasing your knowledge.
Yep.
So whatever you want to do with the specifications, it's available to everybody. Learn how to use it, and
Yep. Any last minute details there, EJ? You think on that whole thing?
It's one of those things where I think the specs, they can, like Lee said, they can kind of make them whatever they want. If they want to get rid of bowling balls or keep them all or whatever they're going to make the rules. The guys are too good. They're going to adapt to whatever is put in front of us. It might be a little bit of a learning curve. It might take a year or two for some guys. Some guys are going to pick it up right away. But, eventually, if you had let's say they made it 80, if hypothetically they made it 80, it might be a year or two. Some guys would take a little bit of while to catch on. But in 2 years after that, everybody's going to have it figured out. And you're going to see the same guys right back at the top on a consistent basis. So as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of irrelevant to me. Obviously we want to abide by the rules and do the right thing. But that's all we have to do. I don't think it's going to change literally anything as far as what you see from guys on tour.
No, I agree. All right, well, we'll wrap this thing up. The one thing I do got to say is we've got something new that I kind of want to pitch in there real quick. I got a video coming out that will show you exactly how this works. For anybody that knows me knows I did an awful lot of virtual lessons that have pretty much been put on hold just because of everything going on. I know a lot of people can't really get into the bowling centers, but I know there's a lot of people that do have video out there of themselves bowling. So what we're doing now is I'm transitioning that over to the BowlerX.com channel. Or to the website, so you'll be able to go to the BowlerX website and get those virtual lessons over there, and not just from me, but you'll also be able to get them from Lee's wife, Krista, as well. She is a phenomenal coach in her own rights. So getting those lessons from a couple different sets of eyes at BowlerX.com will do you some good. And the cool thing is we're going to bring in some of these guys like EJ to kind of comment on some of those videos. So when you send me a video, I'm going to send it to EJ and say, look, hey, give me a quick video. What do you think of this? And send me a 15-second or 20-second clip. What do you think can change in this person's game? They'll give you a quick tip, and then I or Krista will elaborate on that a little bit more and explain to you exactly how to fix it and how to change things. So it's going to be pretty cool. EJ won't be the only one doing it, although I'm sure he'll want to do every single one of them for you because he just loves bowlers that much. But we're going to try to get as many people as we can involved in this. So you're not going to just get to see my ugly mug all the time, constantly barking at you, trying to tell you how to do things. So you'll get to see a couple other people get some different things in there. So that'll get posted here soon. I'm going to finish that video up within the next day or two to be able to explain a little bit more how you'll be able to get that done. But for now, you'll be able to head over to BowlerX.com and get signed up for all that. Eventually, we're going to get that going. But we're going to get out of here. We've had a great show. I mean, I really want to thank EJ for coming on and spending some time with us. I know a lot of people really, really like listening to you talk. You've got a lot of knowledge out there. I know I enjoy talking with you. Even I learned some things from you, even though I feel like I know most things already. So it's nice to be able to get another mouth out there that can, tell people, basically a lot of the same stuff that they should know. So it's really nice to have you guys come on here. Lee, definitely a pleasure always having you, and I'm going to have you back every week, of course. So it's nice to be able to chat with you again. Yeah, if you have to. I mean, we're always looking at getting a new host for match games. We can always be co-host for this, so try to mix it up a little bit. But that is all we've got for you. Any last words, guys?
Just stay safe, everybody, and hopefully we'll be back on the lanes very, very soon, and we can see everybody and at tour events. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing everybody in the crowds and having a crowd again on TV shows. So stay safe and look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks again. You'll be able to see this over at the BowlerX YouTube channel and on the Facebook page. Make sure to subscribe over there, as well as like the Facebook page on Instagram and Twitter as well. But until next time, guys, we'll see you next week at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So we are out of here. BowlerX out. See ya.
Bye.